KOC was on the Dan Patrick Show. We both watched it. Great interview. But there were
Yeah.
two things that really kind of stuck out to me. So I wanted to show them to you here.
As a guy who's played 7 or 8 quarterbacks in 4 years, the 2 years we had our starter, play the whole season, we won 13 and 14 games. So we want to try to get back to the standard of having the quarterback position be a driving force behind us winning by doing their job, by hopefully activating the great players they get to play with. We got a great defense. Brian Flores has done an unbelievable job. But what you said is very similar to what I said.
I like
we want
the
the guys to
pickup.
compete.
I like that you got Kyler
We want
Murray.
the guys to push to find exactly what they can become as players, and it's okay to be uncomfortable doing that sometimes.
Yes,
With
they're
as
grown-ups.
talented as these guys are, and they are, we are in a world where you find out very quickly that you have to be a grown-up in the National Football League, because that's what every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, whatever it is about. And we know that. We know what we signed up for. These players know that. I think they've handled it well, and I'm excited to see what it looks like.
It's okay to be uncomfortable. But KOC gets criticized a lot from fans for like the coach speak, which they all do it. And if you watch the interview, Dan and the Danettes roasted him about that. It was pretty great. But I thought this was a really transparent moment. I thought it was a really honest moment. It's okay to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the interview was great. I mean, there's only a few, I think, in the business that can do that to a head coach and say, hey, we're just going to make fun of you and we're going to call you out. And then I'm going to take my turn at this and I'm going to say, like, okay, here's how I would have answered it. And I thought his answer was great. And then he kind of gets you fired up at the end. But I think KOC's he's right in a lot of things. And I know that we sometimes have to read between the lines because you can't show your hand in everything. And there's a little bit of mental warfare, I think, that these coaches have to use on players to get them to play at the highest performance. And so I think that's what's going on here. But when you're talking about competition's not comfortable. And it never is. I mean, if you're comfortable in a competitive environment, well, maybe it's not a real competition to you. Maybe you don't feel and understand the factors that are involved in what's making this a real competition. And so I like the fact that he was at least honest, saying that it's okay. Like, we're not going to coddle these guys. I think that there was, both players were in situations where there wasn't a ton of competition. It didn't seem like they had to really earn their job. It was just like, hey, this is the situation. You're a first round draft pick for both of you. Eventually, you're just going to kind of be given this job. Like, it's inherent that based on your draft status and your draft stock, that this is going to be your job. And you've never actually felt somebody breathing down your neck, which is going to make you a better player. So as long as they can keep that going for the most of training camp, I think it's going to be best for the team. It's going to be best for both players, and it might get a little ugly and it might look a little sloppy, but that's what the spirit of competition is.
Yeah, I loved what he said at the end, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is an adult league. It's a big boy league. Like, and I think when you look at both players, you talk about a guy who has done nothing but win his whole life in JJ and has finally hit some adversity and a different type of football in the
Mhm.
pros and has yet to show that he can participate in that. And you have a guy in Kyler Murray who it's well documented they had to write a video game clause into a contract.
Yeah.
And so I love it. And I think it speaks a little bit to, like, outside the coach speak, if you pay close attention to him, Jefferson, like, I think you can read through the lines and you can find some, like, criteria. Like, what is ultimately important? And I think that are you okay with this? Are you okay with this guy maybe is gonna get your job? You're maybe like, and they're gonna, whoever gets this job is gonna need to be okay with that for the next 20, 30, 40 days. Uh,
Yeah.
the other thing that he said about, which is what you and I have said, when this guy has a starting quarterback for a whole season, we win a lot of games thus far.
Mhm.
It's the only evidence we have.
Yeah.
And then he said, we got to get back to the standard where our quarterback drives winning by essentially getting the ball in our playmakers' hands. Again, paraphrasing. But I'm not a pro football focus guy. and I'm not anti Pro Football Focus. Don't care either way. But they have this
Yeah.
interesting stat that that comment made me think of, or this category. It's called a zero graded throw. It's essentially a throw by a quarterback that neither elevates nor hurts your overall passer grade because you are simply doing exactly what the play dictated. And I've seen different people in that world mention that this is a big part of what KOC does. I don't know if that's true or not. You could probably tell me. But as a schemer who seems to scheme guys open well, and when you have all these playmakers everywhere, it does seem like that was another piece of criteria he put on the board. Not that you're a game manager, but hey, man, get on schedule, know my offense, be an adult, process it, and give it to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson, this new, this new rookie kid. Like, get it and go. So I thought he put a couple of pieces of pretty honest criteria on the board.
That PFF stat is interesting to me because I mean, I know, I get it. I'm with you. I could take it or leave it. I think,
Yeah.
when it benefits your argument, you can use
Yeah.
it. And then obviously when someone uses it against you and you're like, wow, it's PFF, right? This one is kind of confusing to me because you just mentioned the word game manager. And there's nothing wrong with being a game manager. And how does PFF know what the first read was? How do they know what happened within
This
the
is my
nuance of
favorite
that
thing.
play?
Can I tell everybody what we've been talking about forever
Yeah.
off air? This is
Yeah.
my favorite thing to do with Ben. For how long have we been talking football on the phone? How long have I been harassing you? 8 years?
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah.
My favorite thing to do is call you and tell you about something, a guy who broke down a play, and I know that's not what PFF is doing, but a guy on Twitter who broke down a play, and we call him "freeze, freeze, I'm right," where they go, they freeze the play, and they go, "You should have done this, and you should have done that," and I call you, and they go, "It's not even the play. This if you do this, this," and then you just completely
I
destroy the argument.
Well, and I'm not, again, I'm not trying to be like, "Oh, Mr. Smarty Pants, and I know how this game is played, and these guys don't know." But I
But
do
you
think in
did
some situations,
play professional football.
yeah, I know, but I'm not always right either. But
Correct,
so
yeah. I think
in
you're wrong, like, a significant amount of the time.
in this situation though, there's nothing wrong with being a game manager.
Yeah.
And the thing that I find a little bit confusing about how are we going to evaluate JJ versus Kyler? Because you almost have to break up the play into two categories and two analysis. In the first 2 or 3 seconds of the play, that is within the flow of the function of the play. Who is
Mhm.
performing the best? Who had the right read? Who did the thing with their footwork? Who did all the stuff, the fancy stuff with their eyes? And how does everything marry up? And who's making the right read? Right. And then on the secondary part of the play, you have Kyler Murray, who is the best, probably the best, maybe outside Lamar Jackson, the best in the league at secondary production within the play. So on a metric like PFF is talking about, on the first 3 seconds, they both might be game managers getting the ball to Justin Jefferson on the first or second read, and it's like boom, boom, boom. It's boring, but you're doing exactly what the play is talking about. Now, if JJ struggles within that first 3 seconds and he scrambles around, well, it may not be a successful play. But if Kyler does it, he may have like a 0 on the first part of the play, but then he may have a +5 on the second part of the play because he scrambles around, he runs around, he buys time, he's telling these guys, go, 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 hit it long, and then he just chucks it up and it's an 80-yard bomb down the field, touchdown, right? Huge difference making play. And you're like,
Or a
well,
sack or an interception doing the
or
same
sack
thing.
and
Go ahead.
interception, but in his career, I would say he's
Yeah.
been, he's been on the more positive side of that than on the negative side. So
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to make it a really interesting evaluation and competition is because that X factor is just what Kyler can do outside of the framework of the actual play. And he's still a young kid. He's still like, hey man,
Yeah.
I gotta do what KOC wants. I gotta be within the function of the play. I gotta be within the foundation of the play. And I gotta do these things to get my reads right because that's what he wants. And then yeah, I can improvise a little bit. We saw it a bit last year, but like Kyler's just better. We already know Kyler's better at that. But what if we find out that Kyler really sucks at being in the framework of the play? But
That
yet,
first part.
the first part, if he really sucks at that first part, but we don't really know that because all we see is him scramble around and make a big play, and we're like, "Hey, man, we'll take a couple more touchdowns and a couple more rushing yards per game," than walking away saying like, "Hey, look at his grade sheet, guys. His grade sheet's not very good because he's not quarterbacking very well." I think that's
Sure.
going to be difficult, and so it does come down flat out to just production. And so, who's going to be
Well
the most productive? Probably Kyler.
here's what I'll say. I think regardless of how it goes, let me put 2 things on the board. 1, this is my own thing. After listening to JJ, after listening to KOC, after hearing the people that I think are connected, like the Peliceros, hear what they say, it's almost like you're a detective and you've got your big, insane board where you've got pins and
Yeah.
strings and you're trying
Yeah.
to. I think there's one obvious answer that we've all felt there was a lead dog, but like, it's not just is Kyler going to win? It's is Kyler going to win and is JJ the long term solution? There's a lot of things at play in the conversation.
Mhm.
It's not simply who wins right now. But what I'm putting on the board, like, number 1 for me that I'm looking at and I'm thinking about is who is the most grown up football human being? In every like, do you come to practice right? Are you responding to the moments when you fail wrong? Are you responding to the competition well? When the coach wants to run things this way and you need to get the play and the playmaker stand, are you processing at an NFL level, a high NFL level? When it breaks down, are you going outside of yourself and making mistakes? I think it's that big like that big boy adult, that thing he said at the end, Monday, Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Saturday, like, you have to be an NFL adult every minute of every day. So that's the number 1 thing I got on the board. And the number 2 one is, I think there's a world where the next 20 to 40 days are the most important of JJ's career. And I don't mean that because he's gonna get traded if he doesn't succeed. I mean, we've always said we wanna see the live bullets flying. I have shifted to this is where you're gonna see that adult stuff.
Hmm.
Is this where he's going to step up? If is this where he's going and, he's a guy who's been known to be a battler and a winner. Are you gonna see that in this situation that everybody agrees from a talent and experience standpoint is kinda tilted against him? Even if he doesn't get the next job, or excuse me, even if he doesn't win the job, in the next 20 to 40 days, is he gonna do the sort of things that show the coaching staff in the building like, "Man, Kyler beat him out because he's got all this, but turns out we do have something on our hands here." That's what I think is the other big storyline here.
Well, I agree with you, and I think that's why this is such a compelling competition because you have tangible versus intangible.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is everybody that has talked about JJ McCarthy says that his intangibles are off the charts. His leadership, being a good teammate, his work ethic, all that stuff, all the stuff behind the scenes, the connector piece of being the franchise quarterback. Everybody that we have talked to says he has it,
Yeah.
right? He's got the intangible. He's missing the tangible part of actually being a great, consistent player on the field. And that's
Mhm.
part of youth. And we have about 10 different excuses and reasons as to why. So we want to use this training camp and this year to see if he can find that. On the other side of it, Kyler Murray, he has the tangible. We know what he can
Mhm.
do on Sunday.
Yep.
His biggest knock on him is his intangibles. He hasn't shown that he can have the leadership skills. Look, back in March of 2023, Jonathan Gannon comes in as the new head coach.
Mhm.
Former player Kelvin Beachum very publicly says, in order for Kyler to take the next step and be the franchise guy, he has to grow up. That was back in 2023. A former teammate saying, like, Kyler Murray needs to grow up. And then we
Mhm.
see the contract and we see the contract clause, and then they take the clause out. And then he plays in that first year, he gets injured, plays only half the season. And then what in 2024 has a great season, plays
Mhm.
17 games. But how did he handle the adversity of last year getting injured, Brissett taking his job because of injury, and then never giving it up? And then never
Mhm.
giving it up. How did he handle that? Sounds like not very well because they were willing to part with him and
Mhm.
pay him $30 million to go out the door. Then he comes here, and what are the final comments that he says after minicamp? Basically, yeah, man, it, you could hear the frustration in his voice that I've never had to split reps before. It's hard to
Mhm.
be in a competition and get the best out of me when I'm taking half the reps. Guess what? He's feeling uncomfortable. He's
Mhm.
feeling the heat of that. And he's in a position where he could show, do I have the leadership skills? Am I being a good teammate? Am I not just being selfish and thinking about myself? I don't know, Sai. Like it is such an interesting behind the scenes mental game that both of these are guys you guys gonna have to play. And I know that we're all excited to see what how JJ handles it. I'm just as interested to see how Kyler's gonna handle it.
Mhm. Yeah. Who who will come out of this thing as the most capable adult?
100%.